you generally do want to go after things like fear, risk, things like that. So one of the things I like to do is, hey everybody. So in today's question and answer session, Joshua here has a really interesting background. He's been working on the marketing side. He's looking to bring some of that into the payment processing industry. So Joshua, tell our audience a little bit about what you're doing now and what you're trying to accomplish, and then I'll give my 2 cents.
Absolutely. So I partner with marketing companies, and we put together really personalized and niche specific cold email campaigns for them to help them get booked appointments.
Okay.
That way they don't have to solely rely on cold calling, things like that.
Sure.
So the whole process system we go through to vet the leads, send them out, 100 to, between 100 and 200 different companies at a time.
Okay.
So, on a daily basis, it's automated once you have the
Right.
messaging and the personalization, all that stuff defined. So I actually work for a processing company. I'm director of client services over here, but I do a lot of stuff, with our marketing, with our sales as
Sure.
well. And I'd like to bring that over to this industry. So
Sure.
a lot of the copy and messaging that we use for marketing companies, well, in this world, you don't want to just go to everybody saying, hey, I can save you X, Y, Z. Like they hear that all the time.
Right.
My question is really like, what type of messaging or angle, if you could go directly to a C-suite executive or founder president of a company, just to get a 10 to 15 minute, conversation with them, how would you go about using that in a cold email message?
Yeah, sure. So with cold emails, as you already know, I mean, you generally do want to go after like things like fear is a really good emotion to go after, right? Risk, things like that. So one of the things I like to do is I like to use compliance as a topic of conversation. So, you could go after that angle. So PCI compliance, how you're handling chip cards. What about, maybe contactless payments?
Sure.
You could grab some really nice quotes from recent articles in the Wall Street Journal and others that have published, studies about how consumers are more concerned now about germs and they prefer contactless payments. That would be, you can do kind of angles like that.
Sure.
The other option you could go to is you could go really specific more on the software integration side. So one of the big challenges that our industry is facing right now is integrated payments, meaning, we're trying to sell integrated payments. But what
Right.
I think a lot of people in our industry don't understand is that large merchants, large businesses, they are also struggling with integrated payments. So, they're trying to integrate payment processing into everything that they do, but they're hitting a lot of barriers. They're having a lot of unnecessary friction where they just want to get paid, but they can't get paid because their payment processing is not successfully integrated. So, what
Right.
I would say is, I'll give you an example. I did a podcast episode recently with Accept Blue, which is a gateway
Yes.
provider. Okay.
Yeah. Hmm.
So in their case, they just did an integration with Salesforce, and I think the other one was NetSuite. So the idea would be you could say, okay, let's go after merchants that are highly likely to use Salesforce. You could probably even buy an email list like that
Sure.
and
Yeah.
cold email them and say native Salesforce payment processing integration and kind of, speak to some of the barriers there. So I think ultimately there's a lot of businesses that understand that there's friction in payments and they need to eliminate that, or they realize that there's risk from fraud, from not being PCI compliant, data breaches, contactless payments, all of those things. So I think if you want to go on the positive side, I think you want to be very targeted and very niche. So it's
Sure.
like, we are helping manufacturing companies, increase inventory turns through the software that's integrated with payments, whatever.
Yeah.
If you're going negative, then I think it's easier to go broad because a lot of people are dealing with the same negative issues. But to show value, you really got to go more specific.
Absolutely. And that's kind of what I was asking as far as like what angles, because I think in this space you do want to go in with value, like bring like so
Yeah.
that they know that when they speak to you, they're getting something out of the call. It's not just a sales pitch, not at all ever pitching them, really just to get a conversation going
Sure.
in the email.
Sure.
So I
Well,
think something like that, kind of dangling it like, hey, this conversation might actually be very productive and helpful for our company.
yeah, I like it. So let's get really specific with that, right? So like how would I actually do that? Like if I was going to write that email, the idea that I would use is I want to go positive, right? But I want to not emphasize the payment processing. The payment processing is just going to be the way I'm able to start the relationship. Okay.
Sure.
So the way I would want to present it, obviously it depends so much on what you sell, what you have to offer, but the way I would do it is I would give them, like the three things. So I would say like, hey, Bill, we noticed that there are three key issues that your type of company is having with integrating their payment processing into their technology. Here's the bullet points,
Sure.
whatever, right?
Yeah,
Whether
just real brief,
contactless,
concise. Yeah.
right, brief, concise. And we would love to provide you with, and you could even, one thing would be actually kind of interesting from a marketing perspective. I'm not sure, you have to test it, but I wonder about adding an additional step, which I know is usually a bad idea, but
Mhm.
I wonder about adding a free download.
Sure.
Where you grab their phone number and things of that nature. And so almost like a funnel campaign where you could say, the three challenges that manufacturers are facing when it comes to, accepting business cards or whatever. And you could actually write that, design that, and create a ClickFunnels type campaign where
Mhm.
free download, and then it goes to the appointment scheduling page.
Yeah, that's very true. So maybe in the email, it's not even so much about selling the call. It's just getting them to download that. Then you can collect and have a conversation.
Exactly. And then it's like, now you've already got their contact information and they downloaded the ebook. Maybe they scheduled an appointment, maybe they didn't, but either way, you probably are going to have an easier time getting lead data that way.
Right.
And then when you follow up, you're like, hey, I saw you downloaded that ebook where we talk about these three keys. I just wanted to know which of those three really spoke to you. And now you've got such a good like inroad conversation to have.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And a lot of the times, I mean, all the times before we upload a campaign, we have the direct contact information of, president, founder, CEO, whatever. So, almost
ultimately you could even just integrate that right into your phone, phone burner or whatever you're using, to just say when they click the email,
yeah, if they
already know who it is.
Yeah, if they open it, hey, I saw you open this. How'd you feel about that? Or type deal as a follow up. So that can almost, because we do five sequence drip campaigns.
Yep.
The second one is usually like, hey, name, I know you're busy, just bumping this up. That tends to work really well. A lot of times they are busy. But then maybe following it up with a third email, like, hey, I saw you open this. What'd you think about it? Any feedback?
Right. Yeah, I think one of the really interesting marketing trends lately, Joshua, is that, it's so funny to me how 3-4 years ago, even people were very like suspicious of Big Brother kind of tactics of like, I just saw you open my email, or I saw you just visited my website. Now people are kind of like, they just expect that you're tracking everything that they do.
Yeah.
Which is great. I love it.
Yeah, for sure. Because you could even tell, hey, I saw you open this like 3 times.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's funny. And
it's almost kind of like a pattern interrupt.
Right. And I'm sure it does like turn some people off, but I like it. And then I think also it's like, to me, especially in this industry, anytime you can get the phone involved with a high quality call, it's just, man, it just works so well. That's really fantastic. But yeah, to me, I guess my thing is, I really like providing value to the people. I feel like ultimately giving people free value and saying, look, we're working with a lot of companies. We just put this together for you. It's a 5-page guide that'll just help you out. It's totally free, no obligation, just something we want to provide. That it's so much easier to write the marketing and the copy for that, to say like, just download this free thing. That's a lot easier than trying to figure out how you're going to squeeze them into an appointment. And then it gives you these really clear next action steps, because now they downloaded it. So they've already made some kind of micro commitment, and you're coming into the call with leverage.
Right.
To me, when somebody schedules an appointment, it's not awkward, but it's a little awkward, because you're like, hey, I saw you schedule that appointment. And then it's like, how can I help you?
Right.
Where, because you don't really know, like, what are they interested in? Why did they schedule the appointment? Whereas when somebody downloads an ebook, that's intent. I mean, exactly, they're interested, they're interested right now, what they're interested in, and you have a great conversation starter. So to me, I like giving stuff away for free, as on all my ebooks.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I like generating the leads from that, and then reaching back out. I will tell you one last thing real quick about this is,
sure.
Don't lose sight in the midst of all your marketing automation and all this work that you're going to do. Don't lose sight of the long-term play of generating valuable content over an extended period of time. So
sure,
you're going to get these people in, if you're lucky, 10% of the people that clicked on the link are going to show, you're going to have conversations, and then, 10% of those you're going to sell. Well, that means there's 100 people that, did show some interest that you didn't sell.
Sure.
Right. And so those people, what you've got to make sure you do is, when they download the ebook, make sure you've got the little checkbox to subscribe to your email list, where you provide monthly newsletter, free tips. And then what you do is, if you can keep that somewhat vertical specific, which you probably can, I mean, again, it may be not a really specific vertical, but it might be, retail or manufacturing, or, something,
home service, something like that. Yeah, for sure.
what you want to do is you want to create kind of a brand around that. So when you look at something like the Merchant Sales Podcast that I do, right? That has its own logo. It has its own place on my website. It has its own color scheme, its own format, think of it in that way where like try to make something where once a month you could send something out. A podcast. I mean, I'll tell you, you'll be hard pressed to find any form of content that'll generate more profit than a podcast.
Yeah.
Because who do you invite on the podcast?
Right.
Prospects that you want to sell.
Yeah. You're hosting the party for them.
Right?
Yeah.
That's who I sell my statement analysis service to.
Yeah.
The people that I interview on the podcast. Like, it's not, I'm a capitalist. It's not, I'm giving it away free for a reason. You know what I'm saying? So Absolutely. The idea is, you're going to, and it's like the brand recognition that you get. But also it's just super interesting content and people really enjoy it. So if you have a targeted niche, you could do that, or you could just do like a newsletter, and in that newsletter, the idea would be, have stories from people that you've sold. So again, you have that list of 50,000 emails. Mm-hmm. Initially you sell 50 people from that. Right. Well, of those 50, think about people that are really happy and satisfied. Either interview them on the podcast or get them to give you a quote or get them to send you a testimonial video. And now when you send your monthly newsletter out, give a free tip. Always start with a free tip, good information, but then also always include this testimonial from this customer that's just like them that's conquered a problem. And then then your call to action of, schedule an appointment or whatever. So don't forget that, because I think a lot of marketers, they're always going for the quick turn, and you definitely want to do that. But there's also a really, really, really long tail. I mean, you wouldn't believe how many people reach out to me that are like, James, I'm going to pay you for that 6-week training course, or I'm going to hire for consulting, or we're going to do the statement analysis tool. And they're like, I started watching your videos 4 years ago.
Wow.
And I've been getting your emails every week for the last 4 years. And I finally thought I should reach out to this guy. And I'm like, It took you 4 years. Like, seriously, could you not have reached out to me 3 years ago? Like, was a year not enough? But that's okay. That's marketing. Like, that's the way it goes. People you stay top of mind. Eventually they have a need. And same thing in your case, these companies are going to have a problem with their processor or a need to upgrade technology. And they're like, that Joshua guy keeps sending me these emails, every month for the last 3 years. I think I'm going to reach out to him. And that's going to be your 10,000 a month account. And, so that's how that stuff works.
That makes a ton of sense. Absolutely. Awesome. Great stuff. Appreciate you sharing.
Cool, man. All right. Well, hey, wish you great success, and,
thank you.
Email me, let me know how it goes.
I sure will. Thanks.
Yep.
Take care.